You never know where an emergency vehicle is headed. Heart attacks, strokes, shortness of breath.
Working fires, biohazard contamination, search and rescue.
Robberies in progress, shootings, car accidents.
Oftentimes, drivers are unsure what to do as emergency vehicles approach. When you see and hear sirens and lights, safely pull over to the right and stop. By doing so, this will allow emergency vehicles to safely pass and continue to their emergency.
Driver safety is a responsibility for everyone. Not following the driver safety law for emergency vehicles puts everyone at risk, from emergency personnel, civilian drivers, and people who are awaiting help.
Not only is driver safety the safe thing to do, it's the law. This can carry points on your license and a fine. So let's be safe.
Remember, sirens and lights, move to the right.
Okay, I am Tom Jenks, the current president of the Joint Veterans Council of Cuyahoga County, and I want to welcome you all here today. You'll be able to follow the program events. They're posted in the center contact of the bulletins that have been placed out on the seats. And we'll have a photo op for each participant who's getting awarded today as they get their award. Please allow me to recognize the distinguished persons who will participate in today's ceremony. Our host, Mayor, the Honorable Frank Jackson, Mayor of the City of Cleveland. Judge Michael Jackson, our keynote speaker. As most of you know, Father Joe, chaplain, United States Army. We have Mr. Marty Flask, the City of Cleveland, base Cleveland veterans, retired, but still supports us in many ways. On the end. And Mr. Richard Deschamps, Tri-C, Student Veterans Coordinator, and a member of the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. Rick, right here. And our Mistress of Ceremonies, Cleveland's Channel 3, WKYC News, 6-time Emmy Award-winning reporter Monica Robbins. As senior health correspondent, she has earned the respect of the region's medical establishment for her fair, accurate, and unbiased reporting. She has an impressive bio in the program, but beyond that, it is most fitting that Monica is with us here today and participating in our Veterans Day ceremony, as she is a strong supporter of the veterans community. I am aware that her uncle, Edwin Robbins, was a veteran, a distinguished veteran, and past president of the Joint Veterans Council on 3 different tours spanning 1981 to 2003. He was this organization's Veteran of the Year in 1983, and he was inducted into the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame in 2006. Additionally, in a few moments, Monica will kick off the ceremony by singing the national anthem. So, Monica.
Thank you, Tom. As the niece and daughter of a veteran, it is my honor to be here and pay tribute to those who have served and thank them for their contributions to our country and its freedoms. I now have the privilege of introducing someone who has served his city and country, a former city prosecutor, city councilman, and council president, but also a fellow veteran who served our country in Vietnam. Would you please welcome the 56th mayor of the city of Cleveland, Mayor Frank G. Jackson.
Good morning. And how are you this morning? Good. You know, I want to welcome you to the Veterans Ceremony and to the Rotunda City Hall. I also want to congratulate all the people who will be recognized today. Veterans Day is really important to us. Why? Because it keeps us knowing and remembering those who have sacrificed so that we could have the things that we have here in this country now. Without Veterans Day, maybe people wouldn't remember as well. So that is why Veterans Day is so important. So it keeps us in the forefront of our minds, those people who have done the things that they have done to ensure our freedom and ensure that we can have the type of life that we have here in this country. I have a proclamation that I want to present to the Joint Veterans Council of Cuyahoga County, because all of this takes work, and since I'm the mayor, I get to stand up here and say good morning to you. But those who put the work in do deserve the credit for the work that they do. So I want to present this proclamation to you on Veterans Day.
Thank you, Mayor. And be aware that it takes the whole committee and many folks to put this on and to work with him, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Now would you all please stand? The Army Recruiting Command Joint City Services Color Guard will present the colors, and then I would ask if you would please join me in singing our national anthem.
Martha, March. Halt. Left. Face. Reset. March.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, our bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
March. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Now please welcome Father Joe Pascura, Chaplain, U.S. Army retired, for our invocation.
We bow our heads, we pray for God's blessings. Dear Lord, this week we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. The war, they said, was to be the end of all wars. 100 years later, we are still at war. So the first thing we ask of you, Lord, is that you watch over the men and women of our armed forces who are fighting that war today. Today we also honor the men and women who throughout our history as a nation have stepped forward whenever our nation called. Bless all our veterans, Lord, many of whom still bear the emotional and physical scars from the wounds they suffered in their wars. We are so grateful to our veterans for their courage, devotion, and spirit of sacrifice. Our country can never thank them enough. Watch over them, Lord, and all those dear to them. Help all of us to be good citizens and to do our part in keeping our nation strong and free. Inspire our public leaders, especially those just elected this past Tuesday. Help them to remember they are called to serve the needs of all people. Help them realize that the only way to lead us is according to your laws, ideals, and values. Bless us all, Lord, and help us always to remember how much we owe to our veterans. Bring peace, a lasting peace, to our world. And God bless America. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. I'd like to acknowledge not only the wonderful color guard that we just saw, a combination of the United States Army Recruiting Command, the Cleveland Police Department, and the Cleveland Fire Department. I'd also like to acknowledge the stationary color guards we have with us today. The Sons of the American Revolution, in their Continental Color Guard regalia, they always bring dignity to any event and look so great. We have the Knights of Columbus Honor Guard up here to the front. And next we have the Cuyahoga County Soldiers and Sailors Monument Color Guard. I want to remind you all that they're having their ceremony at the monument Sunday morning at 11. Perhaps you had a chance to visit some of our information tables today. Going down this row, we have Cuyahoga County Community College. We have next to that the American Red Cross, and the third table is the table representing both veterans treatment courts, both the municipal and county courts. If you haven't had a chance to chat with them beforehand, I'm certainly going to stay around a few minutes following the ceremony so you get an opportunity at that time. A special recognition needs to go out to Mr. Paul Tuggy. As you might suspect, he's outside. He's a United States Marine Corps veteran, and he's coordinating the parade, and he's out there chasing the clouds away right now so it won't rain on our parade. I mentioned that Edwin Robbins, Monica's uncle, had been inducted into the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. I'd be remiss not to mention our newest member from the area, a veteran who has served with distinction in his community and served fellow veterans, and that's our own Ron Schwachtenwald, Colonel, retired, who was inducted just yesterday into the Ohio Veterans Hall of Fame. Ron, would you please stand for a round of applause? I'd like to ask a question rather rhetorically, and then I want to give you a little answer, but what makes a veteran? Many of us here are veterans, and yeah, we're veterans, but what makes a veteran? I just want to give a sample. There are many different things, of course. But a simple answer is that when a young person volunteers or enlists, or is volunteered by his friends and neighbors, called the draft, into the military service, he or she goes off to serve, and at the cessation of the fighting, an armistice is signed by the commanding generals on the battlefield to recognize the end of the fighting. Then when he or she returns home, ever changed, but is a veteran for life. With that thought, I'd like to turn the program over to a professional. Back to Monica.
Thank you, Tom. Our next speaker served as a Marine combat officer during the Vietnam War. He's been awarded 5 personal decorations for valor in combat, including 2 Bronze Stars and the Purple Heart. He has served as judge for the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas since 2012, and as the only veteran on this court. He came up with an idea 3 years ago that was truly brilliant, because he saw what was happening to our veterans who were returning home and having difficulty acclimating back into society and getting in trouble with the law. So what he did was start the Veterans Treatment Court, VTC. It began 3 years ago, now has over 100 participants and 47 graduates, and has been a life-saving form of justice for many veterans. We are honored to have such an inspirational and dedicated individual speak to us today. Would you please welcome Judge Michael Jackson.
I don't know about you, but after Monica gave that rendition of our starting event of National Anthem on every occasion like this, I was ready to re-up. I don't know about anybody else out there, but I was ready to sign up again. We gather again for Veterans Day in this grand City Hall building to recognize one of the days set aside for those who served in our armed forces. Today, of course, we recognize those who served, and in the spring, we recognize those who served and lost their life in the service of their country. Every Veterans Day is special, but this one is particularly special because on the 11th day of the 11th hour, 11th month, in 1918, a peace treaty called an armistice was signed to end what is now known as the First World War. It truly was a world war. America took part in that war for approximately 2 years, and there were 15 other countries called the Allied Powers. They included Britain, Russia, France. The strength of the Allied Powers was 43 million in service. 5.5 million were killed, 13 million wounded. The Allied forces fought the Central Powers, comprised of 4 countries: German Empire, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. Their strength was 13 million. 4 million were killed and 8 million wounded. The total was 9.5 million killed, 21 million wounded. Approximately 8 million citizens lost their life. The numbers are staggering. Unimaginable, really. It truly was a world war. The First World War was also the beginning and introduced modern warfare on a major scale: airplanes, tanks, other mechanized vehicles, vastly improved artillery and weapons. And the Central Powers, primarily Germany, used gas, including one called mustard gas. And that killed or maimed many of thousands of the Allied forces. All of this occurred when my grandfather was of age to serve, and for many of you in the audience, it would be your great or great-great-grandfather. The legacy of that war does have, in my view, a direct application to the lives of veterans in this room and throughout our country. The veterans who returned from World War I in the United States started numerous veterans organizations. Although they had existed earlier, they really flourished after World War I, including the American Legion, started about 6 months after the armistice and now has over 2 million veterans as members. These organizations were started because veterans wanted to be with other veterans. They wanted to ensure and help other veterans who needed help, and they wanted to ensure that our country got the benefits to those veterans who needed it. They worked on a daily basis and were committed to those veterans. And I call that the shared military experience. And in today's world, we would call it a band of brothers. And that applies to all veterans, male, female, black, white, brown, regardless of religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation. And we also follow what was led and organized and believed and committed by other veterans earlier, to leave no veteran behind, meaning for those who need care and help, we will find a way to do that. Not every veteran does that, but many do. And what binds us all together is that shared military experience. We believe that there is a connection regardless of when you served, regardless of what branch you served in, and whether you were in combat or not. The desire to bring together a shared military experience is the foundation of the Veterans Treatment Courts referred to by Monica. There are over 500 Veterans Treatment Courts in the United States and 22 in the state of Ohio, all originated and developed in the last 10 years. These courts are for veterans who are placed on probation and qualify as veterans in the court after screening, and most of them have drug, alcohol, or mental health issues, some related to combat, some not. Some related to service, and some not. The reason why these veterans courts work, and these veterans could be in drug courts, these veterans could be in mental health courts that we also have, but the reason we have veterans treatment courts is because working together as veterans, one judge in Buffalo, New York, 10 years ago, found out that veterans helping veterans, you get better results. And that's the foundation of veterans treatment courts, that shared military experience. We have volunteer mentors who give up their time to assist those veterans through the process. We have prosecutors who are veterans. We have defense lawyers who are veterans. We have treatment people who are veterans, and including representatives of the VA. That shared military experience has made the difference for those to leave that program law-abiding and be accountable for their conduct. There's a small sign on the end of my courtroom, and all the veterans and anyone else walking out of my courtroom can read, and it was from a graduate a few months ago. And that sign says, "I want to thank all of you who helped save my life." That's what happens in veterans treatment courts. Some in our community have a difficulty, maybe that's not the right word, but don't really understand the shared military experience. And I can understand that. Because if we look at a similar situation, the veteran looks at it differently than others. And I'll give you an example. If I saw the mayor of Cleveland walking down the street, Mayor Jackson, I would see him as a veteran who is the mayor. And I suspect non-veterans who may know he is a veteran would see him as the mayor who happens to be a veteran. That difference in focus is what I think is the essence of how veterans view each other. And I'll give you another example, somewhat on point. When I was campaigning for judge, a young man came up to me and says, "You have the same name as Mayor Jackson. Are you two brothers?" And he said that with a kind of a smile on his face, and I knew that he knew I was Caucasian, the mayor's African American. And I immediately said to him, to his surprise, "Well, in a way, we are brothers. We served in Vietnam." He looked at me and he was puzzled, and I'm sure he didn't understand. But the point is that Mayor Jackson and I understand that, and all of you sitting here today understand that, and the family members understand that, and particularly those who are not combat veterans or veterans at all. Many of them have an appreciation for that, and I want to recognize one here today, and that's Judge Patton. He's a non-veteran. He's running the Cleveland Municipal Court Veterans Program, done so for a long time. He understands. And for him to get this award today is certainly fitting in my part, and I could think of no better person to receive that award. There's one other aspect or thread about World War I that I think is also present in our lives of many veterans, and it's of a very different tone and type. I mentioned mustard gas that was used on many of the troops in the United States and other forces. It turns out that after the war, scientists looked at the mustard gas and through some experiments and analysis found out that mustard gas can be used as chemotherapy for cancer treatment. And today, veterans sitting in this room today, including me and other veterans, receive that mustard gas to treat our cancer successfully for many of us, fortunately. It's quite amazing to me that that would be the result. And I want to take time to say thanks for all of those veterans who came before me, because the mustard gas that I received is the result of the VA determining that my exposure to Agent Orange created the cancer, was the causal link to that cancer. And so those veterans who fought to get that result, and it wasn't easy, both individually and as organizations, the American Legion, Vietnam Veterans of America, fought to get that to happen. And so I walk in now with the presumption of my benefits will be awarded and the actual receiving of the medication that I need. And it's truly a blessing that we are the beneficiaries of that. And I know all of the veterans here feel the same way. Those veterans ahead of us certainly believed in and acted upon Leave No Veteran Behind. In closing, I believe the Marine Corps motto, Semper Fidelis, applies to all of you, including those who didn't join the Marine Corps, and that is always faithful. I think it applies to all veterans, and particularly veterans here today. Thank you.
Thank you for those wonderful words of wisdom and history, and for helping introduce our first award winner today. That is Judge Charles Patton from, of course, the Municipal Court. And his bio is complete. I'm not going to read it to you from the program, but I looked at that as a sidelight. I taught in the Cleveland Public Schools for nearly 20 years, and I didn't realize that Judge Patton was a graduate of John F. Kennedy High School. And I did make note of that to some folks at John F. Kennedy, that you've got someone, an alumnus from John F. Kennedy, getting the award today. So I'd like at this time to call up Judge Charles Patton. And on behalf of the City of Cleveland and the Joint Veterans Council of Cuyahoga County, we want to honor him for his service as a civilian to the veterans of our community. And with a great deal of respect to him, he is receiving the Judge Felix T. Mattia Outstanding Service Award Civilian Honoree today, signed by Mayor Frank Jackson. And for a photo op, I'd like you to call up your family members or whoever you have with you. Or first of all, before we do that, okay, let's take a few words.
Thank you.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, Judge Jackson, guests, friends, and family present, it is a true honor to be in front of you today on Veterans Day, celebrating the men who have sacrificed for our country. My father had 5 brothers. They all were veterans. My mother had 5 brothers. They were all veterans. So I'm the son and the nephew of a lot of military history. And when my father and his brothers would get together, they would talk about their service. And I was a little guy sitting on the floor just listening. And remember those stories, remember them talking, and remember the camaraderie they had between them, not just because they were brothers, but they were brothers in service. They talked about Armistice Day, Decoration Day, some people said, and what it meant. So when I'm out and I hear a history lesson, I appreciate it, because Judge Jackson told us some stuff I'm sure we didn't know about World War I and how many people died protecting our rights and our freedoms today. So Judge Jackson, thank you for the history lesson. Thank you for the shout out. Appreciate it. When I was a young man living on Phillips Avenue off 124th Street in Cleveland, my next door neighbor was a guy named George Forbes. There were 2 Navy nurses, retired, who lived on my street. So I kind of grew up thinking that was normal talk, the way George Forbes and nurses talk, cussing at each other all day. But that was the way I grew up. So I had to learn to bite my tongue when I was in elementary school. That wasn't correct or proper. Veterans Treatment Court. We have a service table back here with some information on it from our Veterans Treatment Court, and a lot of people don't understand. Treatment works. Mental health, drug treatment, alcohol treatment, it works. It takes time, it takes dedication. And we have a dedicated staff at the Cleveland Municipal Court that help us do that every day. Let me ask all the members of Cleveland Municipal Court who are present today to please stand. And let me say thank you all for the service you give in helping our veterans. I had a good friend I used to hang out with when we were in junior high school. His name was Gil. Gil was a poet. He would take notes and write poetry. Gil wrote songs. When we were in college, many students would listen to Gil's songs and they were happy. He had a song called "The Revolution Would Not Be Televised." Gil's real name was Gil Scott. He did so much heroin, they called him Gil Scott Heroin. Gil did about 5 years in jail in Connecticut. I recently saw him when he got out of jail. And he gave a concert at the Blue Note in New York City. I went to the concert, saw him. He saw me, we talked, he knew I was a judge. He tightened up. And I asked him, did he get any treatment while he was in jail? And he said, what kind of treatment do you think they give us? And, but he signed a recording contract that week and was on his way to England to do some concerts. Gil overdosed before he got to go to England. And he's no longer with us. But if he had gotten treatment while he was in jail, he might still be with us. So treatment works. And we all know somebody who's died of an overdose. We've all been to that funeral of a loved one. But what we're doing in treatment court works, and it needs the support of all of us. It costs a little money to do this, it costs a little time, but it pays off in the end. Thank you for this award today. And for the photo op, you want to do the photo op after, or you want to do it now?
I think we do it right now, Mayor Jackson.
Mayor Jackson.
Step over, please.
Let me ask.
And you bring up?
My administrative law judge, would you mind coming up also?
If you could hold on to the proclamation from Mayor Jackson, from the city.
Where you want it? On this side? Here. Okay.
And I'd like to present these flowers on behalf of the Joint Veterans Council, so if you'd be so kind.
Go ahead and look at him first. Okay, ready? Everyone look at me, please. Smile, everybody, hold it right there. Okay, again, hold it. One more, please. Last one, hold it right there. Thank you.
Wow, Judge Patton, thank you for those words too. It's encouraging that there is hope for people who need help, and it's out there. The next awardee we have is in fact a veteran, served a long time. He volunteered to serve and during the Vietnam era, and veterans don't get to choose where they go when they enlist. Many enlist saying, oh gosh, I'm going to go to Vietnam in the time frame of his enlistment, and not all do. A dear friend of mine, when I was in the Gulf War, was at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and every morning he would tell his wife, we're going to load up and ship out, and every night he'd be home for dinner. So there are different things different people do when they're called, and it's important that they do their jobs when called. This award is to Terry Zachary from the Polish Legion of American Veterans, which I've come to understand you do not have to be Polish to join. I've driven by the one on 200th Street over 1,000 times and not knowing I was eligible to join. And when I found out, I joined the Polish Legion of American Veterans and pay my dues to that organization as well. So at this time, I'd like to ask Terry to come on up, please. And Terry, if you have a few words, and then you'll bring your family up, and I'll present this to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. And I also am not Polish. I am Ukrainian. It is quite an honor, okay, and it seems like only a few years ago that I was low crawling at Fort Campbell, Kentucky at the age of 18. Okay. No long speeches, okay, except I would like to acknowledge my two sons, Bohdan, who was 18th Airborne Division, my retired E7 son, Zenon, 25 years, 101st Airborne Division, just retired in February, and now he got a job working with the government as a professor outside of Fort Knox, or in Fort Knox, I'm sorry. And also, I'd like to thank my wife for all the years that you had to hear about this and listen about the different things that I was doing at Wade Park Hospital, Brecksville Hospital. When we had Brecksville open, we were there. And her father, Sonny, who was U.S. Navy. We were all Army, but that's okay. Also, I want to make one big thank you to the Polish Legion of American Veterans for their trust in me to be their current state commander. Thank you.
Okay, if you please call your family up here.
Good, Jackson, sir.
If you would hold on to that and move now just a little, let your family get up. Oh, in the photo, I want to get the flowers presented to you for your dedication to. It takes a family to get these awards. Okay, congratulations. Now at this time, representing Cuyahoga County College, I'd like to ask Rick Lachant to come up and make a presentation to the Student Veteran of the Year.
Thank you, Tom. Your Honor, thank you as always for hosting. I can't help but look around this rotunda, and I got to tell you, every one of these pillars reminds me of the men and women I've had the pleasure to serve with, who in and of themselves, while on duty, pillars of strength, holding up a bigger cause. And I can't think of a better background. Judge Jackson, the reminiscing about World War I, thank you. My grandfather was a doughboy, picked up his Purple Heart at a little place called Argonne. And years later, this time of year, Grandpa
kind of like a little nip of black velvet and 2 red cap ales as we're getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner. And from the living room, if we ever heard Grandpa start singing "Over There" or "Hang the Kaiser by the Apple Tree," whether the turkey was done or not, we were eating. I am so pleased to be here on behalf of your community college, Cuyahoga Community College, who 11 years ago has always been home to veterans, as evidenced by one of our star alums who started his scholastic career, the mayor, when he came home from Vietnam. And for 53 years, we now estimate we have provided service to almost 30 to 35,000 veterans and their family members. Our West Campus, you may be aware, was the site of Cleveland's original VA hospital, the Cryle VA Hospital. So as an institution, we have a wonderful relationship with the veterans community of Northeast Ohio. Under our current leadership, first Dr. Jerry Sue Thornton and now Dr. Alex Johnson, we have been given the green light to do a lot for our veterans. This semester, I have 633 across 5 campuses. We now have 4 veteran service centers established in the school and a 5th on its way at our campus in Westlake. By spring, we will have a 5th service center. And I'd be remiss to say one I'm very proud of, thanks to support not only from the college, but from a lady who's here today by the name of Susan Fuhrer, who is the director of the Lewis Stokes VA. Take a bow, Susan. We are only thanks to her efforts and under her leadership, we are only one of 2 colleges in the nation that has a distance learning center for disabled vets located within a VA medical center, the AT&T Veterans Education Connection Center, and we couldn't have done it without Susan Fuhrer's support. So thank you again. Our Student Veteran of the Year, I think you see his bio in the program, Alan Bray. I could read you that bio, but I'll be distinct and succinct and to the point. I have never, in the 11 years we've done this, found a more deserving candidate for this award. Alan Bray is the consummate student veteran that any institution would love to have on their campus. And it comes down to one word that I think has defined him in the phases of his life, and that's commitment. He came out of high school, saw a bigger vision, made a commitment to serving his nation. United States Army, Afghanistan, decorated for his service. But came home and knew he needed to do more. He enrolled at Tri-C. And Alan, I know I won't embarrass you, but he struggled. But he committed to his education. He engaged with my team over there from our Veterans Education Access Program, which is a transition program to help get you ready for the challenges of college. He committed and finished on that commitment. He will be graduating cum laude this December from the college. He has furthered his commitment to his education, and we just found out, I know you told me here a couple weeks ago, you've been accepted at Hiram to continue your 4-year education. So he's going on for his bachelor's degree. And then a final commitment, it's everything he's done on campus, what he's been engaged in. And the final commitment is back to his fellow veterans. He is currently, thank you again, Susan, interning over at the Lewis Stokes VA, continuing to give back to the men and women he served with so honorably in the United States Army. It was with a great deal of pleasure I present to you the Cuyahoga Community College 2018 Student Veteran of the Year, Alan Bray, Jr. Alan? A couple of things. First, and you need to thank this gentleman, this is an official proclamation recognizing your award as the Student Veteran of the Year from the City of Cleveland and Mayor Jackson.
Thank you, sir.
And then also from the college itself, you'll be added to the honor roll. This is your plaque to Alan Eugene Bray, Jr., 2018 Student Veteran of the Year, Cuyahoga Community College. These are the kind of young men and women we're proud to return to this community who will continue to contribute to this community. You want to say anything?
My name is Alan Bray, Jr. and I'm a proud veteran of the United States Army. It is truly an honor to be the recipient of the Student Veteran of the Year Award. As a diesel mechanic who served in Afghanistan, Operation Enduring Freedom, I understand the sacrifice of putting my life on the line to protect the freedom of others. As a student and scholarship recipient at Tri-C, I understand that people put their funding on the line to give me my education. Because of a Tri-C Foundation scholarship and my vocational rehabilitation benefits from the military, I was able to accept my associate's degree and earn acceptance into Hiram College. My bachelor's degree in business management. While I may be the Student Veteran of the Year, there are so many other deserving veterans who also put their lives on the line and are now pursuing their education. We honor their sacrifices and encourage their continued success. Just as it is the case for veterans after service, when you leave here today, the battle is not over. We must continue to turn back around and help the next in line. We cannot forget the feelings of inspiration we feel in these moments. As veterans, we do not get to choose the time and place when we are called into action. Service is a daily duty. We leave no soldier behind. I want to thank you all for continuing to support our veterans and for refusing to leave any of us behind. Norman Schwarzkopf said, "It takes a hero to be one of those men who goes into battle." I say it takes a hero to sacrifice your time and financial support to give a stranger a chance at achieving their dreams. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Okay, can we have his family come up to presentation? Remember your mother?
Yeah, my mom.
Yeah, his mother.
I'll get on the other side. Let's get your mom in here. A little something for mom, too.
Okay, yeah.
Stand by your side.
Right there, right over here, me, please. This camera, please, right here. Smile. Okay. This camera, though, okay? Hold it. Again. Again, one more, please. Last one, right here, please. Okay, now please look at this gentleman.
Can we have one more round of applause for all of our Worthy Award recipients? And Mr. Bray, thank you so much for giving us all chills up here. At this time, would you please welcome Cleveland Police Officer Pete Williams, who will lead us in singing God Bless America.
All right. It's truly an honor to sing before you here today. And I know that everyone agrees that God does, has always, and will bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountains to the prairies, to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you.
Thank you, officer. That was beautiful. If you would please, I hate to do this to you, but remain standing. Yeah. We are going to have our benediction, then you'll hear Amazing Grace by Captain Renee Kane and Patrick Faith, and then there will be the rifle volley and taps. Please remain standing throughout. Would you please welcome back, though, Father Piscura to give us our benediction.
Once again, we bow our heads and pray for God's blessings. As we go our separate ways, Lord, may we always feel your presence with us in whatever we do and wherever we go. Help all of us to make this world a little better place. Bring peace to our troubled world and an end to war and violence. And today, Lord, we ask especially take special care of our veterans that we honor today. And God bless America. Amen.
Thank you all for attending. We request that you get prepared for the march that's going to start and finish in front of City Hall. Our veterans and our military don't bother about the weather, so neither should we. So please, we'll be gathering in just a few minutes out front. Thank you so much for coming.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good. But I have a story, and I don't know where to start.
I'm good. But I feel alone in a crowd.
I'm good. But nobody understands.
I'm good. But the past keeps coming back.
But I can't get out of bed.
And I can't sleep.
I'm good. But I feel overwhelmed.
I'm good, but I don't feel safe.
But I don't even know who I am anymore.
But I still have nightmares. But I don't need any help.
I'm good. But I don't feel anything anymore.
I'm good. But I can't live like this anymore.
I'm really not so good. But are you ready to listen?
Our veterans put everything on the line to protect our freedom. We may never be able to repay them for their sacrifice, but we can show them just how much we appreciate all they've done. Every day, hundreds of people just like you volunteer to help our veterans. You can help by simply sharing your time, lending a warm smile, a supportive hand, or a sympathetic ear to someone who needs it. Everyone can do something to make our veterans know how much we appreciate their service. What will you do?
you.